Hello everyone to another episode of Bible Illustrated Hands. This is a continuation of my yesterday's rant. This one will be a tad shorter, I just didn't want to overdo it yesterday. So, this is St. Paul the Hermit, Crab. So, let me continue. There was this one moment from the Council of Florence, which the Orthodox ultimately rejected, when St. Mark of Ephesus accused the Catholics of tampering with the texts of the Holy Fathers and inserting filioque clause into the texts. And when I first read it, I was like, well, come on, that's a considerable accusation, we shouldn't approach things like that. We should approach things in good faith that they weren't tampered. But then my good guardian angel gave me a thought, well, some things were tampered, some things that were more important, and that is the donation of Constantine. And sadly, that is true. For you see, a lot of papal supremacy, in fact, hinges upon that forgery. It was even quoted by the Pope who reigned at the time of the Great Schism. So a lot of papal supremacy actually depended on it, and not only the notion of papal supremacy within the Church, but also the absolute temporal power of the popes. And as a lot of you probably know, this was proven to be forgery, and to say something nice about the Catholic Church, it was done by the Catholics themselves. Over time, it was realized that it was a forgery, and while the Catholics kept claiming that the Pope has this supreme authority over the entire Church, the temporal supremacy sort of flew out of the window. It is a bad thing if one of your major dogmas and one of the major historical events, that is the Great Schism, was contingent upon a proven forgery. So that simply, that simply won't do. So Catholics usually claim that, Christ said, "You are Peter, and upon this rock." Well, Christ didn't build his church on a word play. All of the apostles were given the keys to the kingdom. They all have the power to loose and bind. So I never really understood the papal supremacy. If you truly believe that Christ is truly risen, then what's the point of having one supreme pope? It's just redundant. A lot of you have said that, well, Boyan, you're not fair because Serbs have committed crimes and atrocities as well. And that is true. However, there is a bit of a difference when Serbian paramilitary groups commit atrocities, and when an entire country, together with its practically entire Catholic Church, commits those atrocities and keeps committing them after the Second World War, because, as it is well known, the Catholic bishops helped different Croatian fugitives to escape the persecution. So it's practically no wonder that communists had such an anti-Catholic stance in Yugoslavia. Yes, by the way, a lot of you know that I don't have a very high opinion of the bishops and so on, and part of that is precisely because of nationalism. Serbs are particularly famous for it, and yes, I'm not a fan of it either on the Serbian side. So it's not like, oh, only Catholics are nationalists. No, no, no. Serbs are as well. However, atrocities as committed by the Croats in the Second World War were, kind of, they were a bit too much. Even though even a single atrocity is too much, regardless who does it. And someone asked, I apologize, I can't remember the name. I don't want to spend time scrolling right now. Well, let us assume that Catholicism is true, and I think that the person who asked the question is Catholic. What would make you convert? Well, nothing. For you see, well, one thing, a true miracle of God. For you see, I watched this documentary, Sex in the Cold Climate. And if you watched the movie Magdalene Sisters, you should be familiar with it. Sex in the Cold Climate is a documentary on the abuses by the Catholic clergy and the Catholic monks and nuns in Ireland. That is, what were they doing to different so-called fallen women in different institutions that specialized in washing clothes. And Magdalene Sisters is a feature movie based on those events. And one of these former fallen women, she says, I don't fast, I don't pray, I don't go to mass, I don't teach my kids about religion. And this really bothered me. And I asked my priest, what could possibly draw this woman to the church? And he said, well, Christ. And that is the greatest scandal, I think, that that a church can commit, and that is blaspheming the name of Christ. I don't know if any of you watched Dennis Prager on his PragerU, that is Prager University videos. They're hit and miss. I like some, I detest others. But he has a great series on the Ten Commandments, and his video on the commandment don't take the name of your Lord in vain is very interesting. He says that what it actually means is not saying like, oh Christ, oh God, and so on. It means that, but that is not its primary meaning. It means that we bear or use the name of the Lord in vain when we bear the name of a Christian, or in his case a Jew, but we act in such a way that people blaspheme the Lord. And that is the great. I want to quote something, from Saint John Chrysostom. If all Christians acted as they should have, there would be not a single pagan in the entire world. I agree with that, but I also think don't think that it is difficult to achieve that. We don't have to become Theotokoses. Just ordinary niceness overall would come a great way, and I think that is the greatest problem when it comes to abuse scandals, both in Catholic and Orthodox churches. So not just Catholics, is that there is always. It seems to me that whenever there is such a scandal, there's usually a move to protect the institution. But this in turn just causes considerable harm to the victims and blasphemes the name of Christ. So it's I don't want to call it a good intention. It's not. But the gut response is the absolute worst. This is just a rant on the side. I know that there's a horrible thing happening with the sex abuse scandals, and while it didn't happen in the Orthodox Church in that scale, there was such mentality present in the Orthodox Church, and Anyone who's Serbian Orthodox knows precisely the cases I refer to, which our church never addressed. And there was, of course, diocese switching, swapping. So, yeah, it is a common mentality. And it's a wrong mentality. It's completely wrong. After all, what Christ says, all we do in secret, what is whispered in ears will be shouted from the rooftops. So that concludes my little rant. Again, some positive things. I don't believe that all Catholics are evil heretics out to destroy the Orthodox. I don't think that all ecumenism again is aimed at destroying the Orthodox. I very much like the new image that the popes push, and that is smiling, happy-go-lucky Pope. I don't mean just Francis. I mean Benedict. I mean John Paul first, second. But I think that the biggest problem that the unity that Catholic Church offers through the Pope is usually false unity. You know, everyone's like, oh, you should accept the Pope, and everyone is also like, oh, I hate Francis. Well, I'm sorry. And you simultaneously have like people like priest James Martin, who should have been defrocked some 500 tweets ago, and simultaneously you have the Society of St. Pius the X. You know, you have such extreme, you have polar opposites within one church, and it's a bit schizophrenic, and it plays along that line that I have discussed in the previous video regarding the Eastern Catholicism. Oh, you can keep your saints, but you know, you can technically be exactly Orthodox, but you're Catholic now. Let me return to some nice things. I like Catholic aesthetics. I like some of, a lot of devotions. I think that Catholic Church, despite its many failures, has also been a force of good in the world of progress. I mean, real progress, not what progress means today, and that is like man giving birth and such similar nonsense. I think that there are truly people. I think that Catholics are perfectly capable of loving the Lord as much as any Orthodox. So yeah, that's about it. I'm sorry if this was a bit all over the place. I just wanted to supplement the previous video. But that's about it. Bye.